One day when I was about 12 years old, I went to church with my grandma. I saw other kids swimming at the end of service, and I asked if I could swim too. I was told I wasn't allowed to swim that day, which made no sense. I loved swimming. It was impossible to get me out of the water. I spent all summer on the river, and I water skied. I was a strong swimmer. I was told I needed to take 12 weeks of courses, which again made no sense. I thought, I don't need a swimming prep. I got this. And about a week later, two missionaries showed up to my house.
What would you say if someone offered you peace and happiness through all of eternity?
We spent the next 12 weeks telling me about my eternal spouse and the other planet that I was going to go to, and really nothing that had anything to do with swimming, so that was confusing. I paid little attention because it wasn't related to swimming. And finally, after 12 weeks, we were back at church, and I got to put on a weird robe, not a swimsuit, and I got dunked in the coldest water you can imagine. And that's how I accidentally got baptized into Mormonism. Today, I wanted to talk about the difference in religion when it comes to the US and the UK. Now, my parents were divorced. Each side of my family had their own flavor of religion. My grandma was Mormon, and I loved spending time with her, although she was not pushy, which is not common when it comes to Mormonism. And her husband, my papa, was an atheist and thought religion was a scam, and he wouldn't even placate her on holidays. But the two of them lived a life of service, unlike many of the people I see in America today calling themselves Christians, unfortunately. But that flavor of Christianity is not new to me, because as I have said, my parents were divorced, and my dad's side was something called Southern Baptist. If you're not familiar with it, the Southern in the title to let you know in the Bible Belt gives you the intensity that it is. Now, my uncle, he is on his eighth marriage and is one of the most religiously intense people you could ever meet. He will tell you all the reasons you're going to hell while he breaks all his own rules. And my grandpa on that side, his dad, when he died, he left our entire sheep farm to the Southern Baptist Church. Yeah, religion in America compared to the UK is a different flavor for sure. Now, me getting accidentally baptized into Mormonism kind of tells you a good baseline for how religion works in America. That you can be baptized into a religion and have no idea what you just signed up for. And a lot of religion in America has turned more extreme, even since I was growing up, and even in the places where it's extreme. But we need to talk about how religion began in America to understand how it got to where it is today. Now, America was founded by people who were very religious, frankly, too religious for Europe. They weren't looking for a place to practice religion freely for all. They were looking for a place to be able to force their own religion upon other people, which is far different than the fairy tale they tell you in American schools, that they were going there for religious freedom. Now, the people who went over there, they weren't exactly chill. They were Puritans, they were separatists, they were people who thought everyone else was doing God wrong. And weirdly, not much has changed. From the beginning, American religion normalized belief should be absolute. Dissent should be removed. Look at the Salem witch trials. And community should be pure ideological base. Nothing else. Just beliefs. Just vibes. And that mindset never left. It just changed costumes. Now, the biggest difference between the UK and America when it comes to religion that breeds this type of extreme religion is really based in social safety nets, which is something the UK does amazingly well, and why it hasn't taken such a deep hold here. Now, in the UK, you get sick, you got the NHS. You lose your job, you got benefits. You struggle, there's council systems, there's charities, there's social support, there are safety nets. In the US, when you get sick, you get debt. You lose your job, bye bye, healthcare. And when you struggle, you're told it's your own personal failure. Now, this creates a ripe environment for desperation. Extreme versions of religions in the States, they don't recruit people that are happy. They don't recruit people with stable opinions. They recruit people who are looking for community, need community, looking for meaning, certainty. someone to tell them that it's not their fault. They may not be able to afford that medical bill, but if they go to church every Sunday and pray for it, maybe their cancer will be cured. And I'm not sadly being sarcastic there. That is a route that many people are forced to take. And if it gives them some peace of mind, that's great. But we know what could help with that. And America simply does not offer that. Religion and extremism steps in where the state fails. And like all things in America, religion's not just an idea of spirituality, it is completely monetized, like everything in America. If you start a church in the United States, you can pay no taxes. You can operate large properties, no taxes. You can operate your church like a corporation with very little oversight because it is your religious freedom. This is why American megachurches don't look like churches at all. They look like giant conference centers. And that's why a movement called the prosperity gospel has taken hold since the 1940s. Let's take a look at this well-known example, Joel Osteen.
Dress good, live in a nice place, excel in your career, generous with others. That brings a smile to God. I can't be a big blessing to people if I'm poor and broke and depressed. And I don't.
He teaches the prosperity gospel at the Lakewood Church. His model is not uniquely persuasive, but because the system allows beliefs to be scaled like a product. His core message is simple. Faith equals success, doubt equals failure, wealth is evidence of virtue, and poverty is a spiritual problem. Now, that message works extremely well in a country with weak safety nets. If you're struggling in America, the system tells you it's your fault. Whereas prosperity theology teaches you if you believe harder and you donate, it will be fixed.
What's your response to that?
Very simple. It takes a lot of money to do what we do.
That's not religion as a comfort. That's religion as a transaction. Now, in the UK, this model struggles to take off. And it's not because Brits are smarter by default. It's that poverty is not moralized, that institutions outside of the church exist as a safety net, and open displays of religious wealth tend to trigger more suspicion than admiration. After all, a pastor living in a multi-million-dollar mansion doesn't come off as blessed. He comes off as someone who deserves investigation. Whereas in America, this is framed as divine endorsement. Same theology, same claims, very different outcomes. Because the difference isn't belief. It's an economic and regulatory environment that allows belief to purely become a monetized business. Now, before we talk about extremism and extreme religions on its own, we need to talk about religion itself. According to recent surveys, around 65 to 70% of Americans consider themselves very religious, that it's deeply important, and they tend to go to services at least once a week. In comparison, in Britain, only about 30% of people describe themselves as deeply religious. That's about twice as many Americans per capita that consider religion a very important part of their life. Fewer British people go to church regularly. They consider it something they do with their loved ones as needed, but that going to church multiple times a week isn't needed to prove that you love God, and that donating 10% of your income is the only way you're going to be getting into heaven. Now, in the US, religion is everywhere. It's more socially acceptable out in public, and actually, if you're not religious in certain areas, you don't really seem to fit in your small town. And there are even states that have laws barring atheists from holding office, which has been amazing to be here and see that you actually have members of office in every religion and no religion. Everything should be represented. In America, religion is woven into the politics. In the UK, religion is tolerated. This creates two very different canvases for religion to grow. But if America is already extremely religious, why are there so many extremists in the same religion? To answer that, we need a working definition. There's mainstream religion, which established institutions would be a part of. They have broad public recognition, historical roots to the area, and some degree of internal diversity. Now, extreme religions in the States have typically a single charismatic leader, isolation from the wider society, a strong us versus them mentality, demands for absolute loyalty, and you punish any dissent. If your religion demands that you question authority, takes your personal autonomy, and doesn't want you to engage with the outside world when you're more than likely an extreme form of religion. Also, if they require you to donate all your money, you're either a religion or an MLM, and for some people, that's a blurred line of the same thing.
You ain't. Now, I need some fresh cash for reshoots. I'm thinking 2 mil.
2 million?
A lot of these extreme forms of religion in America also engage with you should not trust experts on things. Like, you should not go to the doctor you can't afford. You should let this rattlesnake bite you, and that'll cure it. You should cut off outside influences, and you should have unwavering obedience to your leader. Yeah, you might be in an extreme version of religion if that's happening. But the thing is, it's hard to tell at times because it's not a sharp, clear line. It's a gradient. It can slowly happen. It blurs the line, like Jim Jones started off as a church leader. The Nexium cult was like a self-help guru corporate cult. Cults take off in America in a completely different way, but they tend to start off as something that looks very innocent. But America's baseline of already being fairly extremely religious lays the groundwork for these extreme cult versions of religion to take hold. Now, I think another common misconception about religion in America is that it's only in the South, famously known as the Bible Belt. And that is where I'm from, in Kentucky. And yes, it is a huge part there. But I also spent the last 15 years living in California, and I can tell you it is everywhere, truly. It is not geographically one spot of America. There are megachurches in America. The 700 Club, Tammy Faye Baker, that studio is in Orange County. While it has been out of business for years, if you drive down the 405 or the 5, I forget, one of the freeways, the building's still there. Now you end up with different flavors. It's not just Christian extremism in California. You have a lot of tech gurus, celebrity gurus, spiritual retreats, different options. You know, you have famous cults from California as well, with Charles Manson and the family, all beginning there, showing you right away that anywhere this can happen. Because at the end of the day, whether you're in Kentucky or whether you're in California, safety nets are weak, which I think is why people think California has less of this, which it does per capita have less than in Kentucky, but it's still America, and the safety net of insurance and housing and all these things we've discussed multiple times, they don't exist there. There's some local programs, some small state programs, but nothing that compares to the system of safety nets in the UK. And this is why I bring back into the fold my grandparents. Now, my papa and Mima, they didn't preach. They lived decently. They treated others with respect. But my papa Taylor's side, the one on my dad's, all they preached was constant division, judgment, and institutional wealth. And that contrast is not unique to my family. This is a microcosm of many people's life in America. America doesn't reward quiet decency. It rewards loud certainty. And extremists thrive where certainty is more valuable than compassion. Now, America doesn't fall for extremists because it's stupid. It falls for it because systems fail. Communities are fragmented. Belief is allowed to replace care. Britain prevents such extremism through not just intelligence, but through structure, skepticism, and institutional boredom, which turns out to be one of civilization's greatest defenses. So growing up, I saw religion in two ways. One, a tool for service. The other as a weapon of control. America confuses belief with morality and confidence with truth. And when that happens, extremists don't look as dangerous. They look comforting. And that's why America keeps falling for them. And just to be clear, I don't dislike religion at all. I grew up just being exposed to a very extreme form of religion that left a very bad taste in my mouth. And it is used often to, as I mentioned, control people. And being here and having to relearn and experience new culture and seeing that religion can be a form of community versus, the fire and brimstone of my Papa Taylor's church. It's been very nice. It's been a lot less pressure. I'm not religious myself, but I think it's great for people who are. And you should all be allowed to believe what you want the same way I should be allowed to believe what I want, which I feel truly the freedom to feel that here. But it was weird in school, as there are clubs called Co-ed Y that come to your school from like 14 on that are religious based. And, everyone's going to the church lock-in. So if you don't go to church when you're in a small southern town, you do get left out. And if people find out you're not religious, they they will say the craziest things. Like when I was in 6th grade and I was about 12 years old, my public school teacher used to call me Lucy, short for Lucifer. And you know why? Because I was a good kid. I didn't get in trouble, I didn't get detention, I got great grades. But I had ADD and I talked too much. So I'd get my homework done or whatever the worksheet was very quickly, and then I just wanted to talk. But that was enough for him to put my desk in the back, facing the wall, and nickname me Lucifer. That's that's the Bible Belt. Were you surprised to learn that I was raised Mormon? I think a lot of people are. My experience with Mormonism was Mormon light. Everyone was very nice, and my grandma was an amazing woman, and the religion meant a lot to her. So for that, I'll always have a soft spot for Mormons. Plus, the musicals are really good. But let me know in the comments below, and please like and subscribe, do that little hype thing, and I'll see you in the next one.